Hey everyone, it's Jacob. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Vlog. I'm in Los Angeles still, in my parents' kitchen as you can see. I'm down in Los Angeles as I am recording the audio version for my upcoming book, The Future Leader. I did around 4 hours today, so my throat is a little sore, a little tender. Got a couple hours to do tomorrow, a little bit on Wednesday, and then hopefully I'll be pretty much done with it. And it's the first time I've actually narrated my own book, so I'm very excited for that to happen. And when it becomes available, I hope a lot of you guys and gals go out and grab a copy, or I should say download a copy. Today I wanted to do a quick video just sharing some really interesting calls and emails that I've had over the past, I'd say week, 1 to 2 weeks. And I've been in touch with a lot of senior level leaders at organizations, just friends of mine, companies that I've worked with in the past few years, that have been looking for new roles and new opportunities. And these are fairly senior people, I would say VP and above. So VP, SVP, EVP, right? Not junior level roles. And they've been sharing some of their experiences with me just to get my take on what I think. And so I wanted to share, and of course I'll keep the companies and the names anonymous, but I just wanted to share some of the things that these people are going through, just so you can see why the way that we think about recruiting and bringing in talent is very much broken. So again, keep in mind these are senior level leaders. So one of the people that I talked to is a friend of mine, and he's been interviewing at a couple companies, and I talked to him a couple days ago and I said, how's everything going? And he says, oh, it's great, they love me, I got along with everybody at the company loves me. But, I did some of these assessments and I scored well, but not super well as they would have liked. And so what they're doing now is they are interviewing some other potential candidates instead. Okay, that's one story. Another lady I was talking to fairly recently, she's a senior level executive at an organization, very senior, I think SVP or above. And she too is looking for some roles outside of her current organization. And she's been interviewing at a couple of big companies. And she's telling me how they're making her take personality assessments. They're making her take the equivalent of the SAT or the GMAT, where they're testing her arithmetic and her vocabulary skills. Again, she's a senior level executive. And I had a couple stories and conversations like this with people where basically they are senior level leaders who are going through this process of taking these standardized tests and assessments. And so this really makes me wonder, right? Are we relying too much on these tests, on algorithms to help us figure out who we should bring in the door, right? So the first story that I mentioned, everybody at the organization loves this person, but because his score on one of the standardized tests was just a little bit below what they wanted, they didn't offer him the job. They might in the future, but they're still saying we're gonna look at other candidates. Now, that to me doesn't make any sense. He's clearly qualified. He's been an executive at other organizations. Everybody on the team loves him. But because of this assessment, this evaluation that wasn't as high as they wanted, they're sort of like, I don't know. And that to me is a little worrisome, because what it tells me is that, and by the way, this is in context of the fact that it's already hard to attract and retain top talent. And in the future, it's going to be even harder. This is why organizations are taking several months to bring in a single person. There are some organizations out there like Amazon that have, 20,000 job openings? Can you imagine if it takes several months to fill just one job opening? Now, I'm not saying that we need to forget about everything and just, everybody come on in, we're going to bring you in and hire you. But there's something to be said for people who say that they really like a candidate who's clearly qualified, but you have to bring in these standardized tests. The second example that I was sharing with you, who's a very talented lady, senior executive at a company, and this organization that she was interviewing for, they wanted her to do a basic vocabulary test, a basic arithmetic test, something that you would find on the SATs. And she's talking to me on the phone and she's like, I don't get it. I'm a SVP at this organization. Clearly, I have some vocabulary skills. Clearly, I have some basic arithmetic skills, right? I'm managing a P&L. I have a large team. And this organization still wants me to take this test because they have a new senior level leader in there and their process. And sometimes what I think happens is that we put the process in the way of bringing in people. Sometimes the process, as we can all attest to, does not make sense. And so the thing that I'm thinking about, and very curious to hear your thoughts on this, is, are we relying too much on process? Is process getting in the way of helping us find the very best talent, of helping us attract and retain talent? And again, it's not to say that process is bad, but sometimes I think we can get a little carried away when we know a candidate is clearly qualified. They have, a decade, 2 decades of experience. Clearly they have the knowledge, and everybody loves the specific candidate. But because the process says they need to take this standardized test, we can't bring them in unless they score a certain level. And that to me just freaks me out a little bit, because I think of the analogy of relationships. And if you were looking for a spouse, you're going on a date with somebody and you say, wait a minute, I really like you and you're great, but I really want you to fill out this assessment first so that I can see if our scores actually align. And again, there's this fine line between too much process, not enough process. We have to sit somewhere in between. So that's really what I wanted to share with you, just these stories from several business leaders I've been talking to. And to me, I think it's completely ridiculous. I think that a lot of these organizations have these outdated processes that have been in place for decades, and they're still in place today, but we don't know why. Doesn't it sound weird that you love a candidate, they're perfect for the role, but because of the process, they're not allowed to take the job? Nolan Bushnell, and I've shared this story before, he's the creator of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese's, and he was the first boss of Steve Jobs. And when I interviewed him and we talked, I asked him about how he hired Steve Jobs. And he said he met Steve Jobs, and within a couple hours of meeting him, he reached out his hand and said, "You're hired. I want you to take this job." They didn't take any weird personality assessments or tests. There was none of this vocabulary, SAT stuff. It's going to take a couple of months. It was like, I get it. You're a good fit. Yeah, I have a team of 10 people that I work with. And granted, I get it. A team of 10 people is not the same thing as an organization of 100,000 or 20,000. But I have a team of 10 people, and I usually hire a lot of the people that I work with within 24 hours. I don't ask them to take any assessments. I don't ask them to do any of that sort of stuff. I talk to them on Skype, see if we have a good personality, we mesh together, and I basically make sure that they're capable of doing their jobs, right? If it's a designer, show me some examples of things that you've created. If you are an assistant, give me some testimonials, people that you've worked with. Tell me how you would structure a day, how you would manage my calendar. If you're a writer, show me some examples of things that you've written. And if I can see some of these examples and things that you've done and we get along, hey, you know what? I'm willing to give you a shot. I don't need to know what your personality type is. I don't need to know that you can take the SAT. I'm not going to ask you to take a 7-hour test. Give me a break, people. It doesn't make any sense. These are very outdated processes and ways of thinking about work and ways of thinking about talent. So again, I could keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about this. It's late. What do you want me to do? But curious to hear your thoughts. And again, I'm not saying that we should abolish these things, but at a certain point, I think we need to realize that processes and these tests and these assessments and these quizzes and our desire to have like this perfect picture, this ideal score, the perfect candidate is really getting in the way of actually helping us find that candidate. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? Let me know in the comments wherever you're watching this. And I am going to go rest my voice. I'll see all of you tomorrow.